Okay, this is Cruiser Dante Gamer, and today we are talking about the RTX series graphics cards versus the Pascal series. Now, let's look at the 1080 Ti versus 2080 Ti. This is from a video from Other TV. Make sure you subscribe to him. He makes very good content. Talks makes really good points about games, and I love his content about RTX and what his perspective is. So to start the video, we are looking at the 2080 Ti versus the 1080 Ti. Comes with 3,584 CUDA cores. The 1080 Ti is 4,352 CUDA cores, and the point of percentage for $600 more, you get an extra 18.6, or let's round it up and make it 20%, so you get an extra 20%-ish performance, presuming this is using GDDR6 versus GDDR5X. So it's supposed to be a little bit faster with the VRAM and all those things, so I could possibly say it's going to get about 20% more performance than a 1080 Ti. And this is a $1,200 graphics card, and this is a $600 graphics card. Think about this real quick, and yeah, just make your decision on that. I'm gonna further talk about this thing. We're gonna come back to the whole 1080 Ti, 2080 Ti series. Now let's go further. Now we're looking at the 1080 versus the 2080. 2080 has 2,944 CUDA cores and 2,560 CUDA cores, and you have also faster RAM. It has 8 gigabytes of GDDR5X. This one has GDDR5.6. Comes with about 13.5, or in this case, you're going to round it again, about 15% more performance than a 1080. For $250 above a GTX 1080 Ti, which the 1080 Ti is around 20 to 25% more performance than a GTX 1080. This card is slightly behind, or right on par. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Right on par with the 2080. I mean, with the GTX 1080 Ti. This card right here is right on par with the GTX 1080 Ti. For $250, you're spending a card that is right on par with the 1080 Ti. Plus, you get 3 gigabytes of extra VRAM on that 1080 Ti versus 8 gigabytes of VRAM on the 2080. Yeah, the 1080 Ti is a faster card than the 2080, unfortunately. The only reason why it's so expensive is because of that RTX bullshit, which I'm going to talk about after I'm done with the showing the performance gaps between both cards. So this is $250 above it, above the 1080 Ti, and this is $430. Right now you can buy this, brand new. Again, 2 times the price point between the two. And then we're looking at the 1070 versus 2070, which is about 15%. It could be a little bit more. It could be 20% more. This is a $600 graphics card, and this is the percentage performance that's roughly gonna have. You could kind of see how much performance it's gonna have compared to the 1070, and yeah. So you're paying $600 for an extra 20% performance on a 1070, which a 1080 has the same performance as a 2070. The 2070 is worth the same as a GTX 1080 Ti, and the GTX 1080 performs similarly to a 2070. So there's just no point. A $430 card performs the same as a 2070, RTX 2070 that goes for $600. So yeah, moving on. This is some news I found from GamerMeld. he talks about RTX. Nvidia's goal for a 2080 Ti is 60 FPS with RTX enabled. So if you're wondering on getting more FPS than this, keep dreaming. This ain't happening. This isn't happening, and it's just gonna have 60 FPS with a RTX 2080 Ti enabled at 1080p. So personally, I would say this: the graphics card is just not worth the price for the performance you're getting. You're not even getting 50% more performance. You're only roughly getting about 20% versus the last gen. For $1,200, that is not worth it. I would understand if it's like $800. I'm perfectly fine paying for a 2080 Ti $800, you know? But for that performance gap, $600 more than a GTX 1080 Ti, you would expect twice the performance. That means 50% bump than what you're getting right now. I'm sorry, guys. If you're that blind, if you're an Nvidia guy and tell me that I'm wrong, and you're that blind to see this, I mean, there's no hope for you, to be honest. And I'm going to continue talking about this over here in PC Part Picker. They almost sold out of the 2080 Ti's. And a few days ago, I looked at this, and there was no 2080 Ti's. All of them sold out. Like, the people bought them. Like, how stupid can you be to buy those cards? Not to mention, some of these people probably bought 2 of them to make a SLI. Whatever. Personally, should want to have more performance than this that Nvidia gives you. For this price point, you should want more. This is too much money for the performance you're getting. Yeah. Let's further look at this. Let's look at the 1080 Ti. Like I was right, it goes for $600. Look, you could get a really nice $600 card. Alright, this is the GTX 1080 Ti Duke. You get a triple fan, MSI GTX 1080 Ti, and usually when you get a triple fan card like this, it should be easier to overclock because triple fans make it even easier to cool a graphics card. So yeah, I just don't see the point. If you want to have that much more performance and you already have a 1080 Ti, just buy another one. If you have a high-end motherboard, SLI will work extremely well on the games that you play with SLI. The Rise of the Tomb Raider that's coming out is going to have DirectX 12 support. That is a no-brainer. And DirectX 12 works great with SLI. And with 2 of these cards on the Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is one of the most known games. There's only 2 known games out of the 25 games of a list of 3 known games. That is, or 4, actually 4. 4 known games out of the 25 games. That is Battlefield 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy 15, and Monster Hunter World. Those are the 4 games. This card, if you have an SLI, is going to run Rise of the Tomb Raider with 50% more performance. For $1,200, it's going to run that game with 50% more performance. All DirectX 12 games will run with 50% more performance on SLI with 2 of these cards. With 4K, you can run that game on Ultra if you want. It's easily going to get 60 FPS more. Plus, you can overclock it even further. Most of the time, when you see an overclocked graphics card, you usually know you can even take it further than what they already overclocked it at. Especially with a triple fan card, it'll be easier to overclock this shit. Now, last thing I want to show is this. I made some really good points right now. Let me just click that. Yeah, there we go. For $1,250 or $40 actually, that's how much a RTX 2080 costs. You can build a Ryzen 7 700, right? Comes with 8 cores, comes with a CPU cooler already from the box. You can get a decent motherboard, right? You don't have a gaming PC and decided that you want to, instead of spending $1,200 for a graphics card on your old fucking PC, you can build a new one. You get a simple board with 2 sticks of RAM, and if you already have the RAM, you don't need to buy RAM. You can just buy the 1080 Ti, put it here, and that shit will run 60 FPS average on high settings. All games will run at 60 FPS average on high settings with a 1080 Ti. Plus, you can overclock it further to get even more performance, an extra 5 or even 10% extra performance on a 1080 Ti, which in reality will be only 10% less than a 2080 Ti. And then you buy a 240 gigabyte SSD for $45, which I think is a really good price for SSD. A simple case for $40 from Cooler Master. It comes with a nice thing on top. You can hold the computer and take it with you if you like. This looks pretty cool with the whole design. For $40, that's pretty cool. 450 watt power supply will be enough to power this, no problem. Look at that, $10 for 80 plus bronze. Yeah, this is a 400 watt technically. Will be enough to power it up. You get a 500 watt for slightly more, and a 500 watt will be enough for this shit. Then you have the mechanical keyboard for $30. Cheap mechanical keyboard. Retracing makes one of the best budget mechanical keyboards you can buy. And then you have the Razer Death Adder, which is a really nice gaming mouse for $30, and a HyperX xCloud headset, which will do streaming very nicely. So for $240, you can buy this for that price. Just shows you that you can buy a high-end system. You can make a high-end system for $240, which is far worth it than getting an RTX 2080 Ti. Just my personal view. Now for AMD people, Vega 64 and Vega 56 personally aren't worth it. I mean, it's kind of alright if you only going for a single Vega 64, Vega 56. You can make a Crossfire, but man, those cards are gonna use a lot of power. And let me show you what I mean by this. So let's get all of this out here. The RAM you're gonna keep, this you're gonna keep. And plus they're asking too much of a price point for the Vega 64. It's just better to buy the Pascal cards. If you have a G-Sync display, it's just better to buy Pascal. So let's look at a motherboard. I already know a decent motherboard we can get. I do this a lot of times, just looking at different graphics cards, thinking what I want to build, because personally I'm a programmist. I program stuff from college, and I really like to look at these things, make a better computer for future builds, gaming computer, and not only that, but a programming computer would be nice. So I think this is it. No, this isn't it. My bad, guys. Yeah, I'm not too sure. By ASRock, let's just look at ASRock. Let's take that out. Alright, so we're looking for ASRock. What was the motherboard? There it is. Oh, it's an X370, my bad. There's the motherboard. Choose video card. Right, you really want to buy a Vega 64. That is the best that AMD has to offer. And that is fine if you want to buy the best for Vega 64. I mean, it goes for $500 right now. You can get the Sapphire or the Power Color. Personally, I will probably get the Power Color, because it's most certainly. Oh, the Sapphire Nitro? Wait, is that the Sapphire Nitro for $500? In matter of fact, buy the Sapphire Nitro for $500 if you want to get a Vega 64 so badly. It's just a better card, and it can overclock further. Wait, why is there... Wait, that's not the motherboard I wanted. That is not the motherboard I wanted. I got tricked. Let me see. Let's look at ASRock again. Is this it? No, that's not it. It's supposed to have SLI and Crossfire support. I don't know why it doesn't have that. Wait, this is it? No, that's not it. Unless they sold out from that motherboard, because it was a really good motherboard. That kind of stinks. It wasn't a B450 motherboard. It was an ASRock. Oh, that kind of disappoints me. It's okay. We're gonna look for another motherboard, X470. It was a gigabyte one, I think. That was really good. Or maybe it was a 370, I'm not too sure. Ah, they sold out from that too? God damn. I'm sorry guys, I'm wasting your time right now. What the where is all the SLI and Crossfire support motherboards? Let me look for X370. BioStar. Yeah, this is for a single card. But no. Well, the really good ASRock motherboard seems to be sold out that I saw. So yeah, this kinda sucks. It costed around 140 bucks. That's why I'm looking at the phone. 140 bucks price point. This kind of complicates things. It actually complicates things a lot. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, those motherboards don't have really good crossfire support. The more expensive ones have it, but the MSI, like those specific ones, don't have it. Those are B350s. B350s aren't good for crossfire, unfortunately. Let's look at the BioStar one real quick. This is seems like a decent motherboard, but I can't see. Let me check real quick. Ah, there we go. Better picture. That's actually not a bad motherboard for how much is it? $100. It's a X370. So yeah, there we go. You got a decent motherboard. $100. It's not from the most known brands. You buy another Vega 64, make a crossfire, and boom, 630 watts. Yeah. So what do you do then? Well, personally, a 650 watts power supply will not be nearly enough to support this. Not to mention, if you have an Intel Intel processor, that's going to be even more watts than what is shown here. So I think the safest power supply to have will be the at least 850 watts, because you're going to be overclocking this. You're going to overclock those two cards to the maximum. This is why the Sapphire Nitro are one of the best graphics cards you can buy. You overclock both to the near maximum, or if you want the maximum, you could possibly overclock it. And yeah, that's gonna be wasting a lot. You should know this, people. This is gonna be wasting a lot of power if you overclock these. Like, if you overclock this to the max, that's gonna have an extra 50 watts at least, and this is gonna have an extra 50 watts, so that's gonna go all the way to 730 watts. And overclocking the processor, for every overclock you do on that processor, you get an extra 10 watts more, roughly. So that's an extra like 50 watts if you overclock this thing to, I don't know, what is the clock on this thing? It's 3 gigahertz. at 3.7. If you want to overclock, I think the max is 3.8 actually. You can try to overclock to 4 gigahertz, but with this cooler, I don't think it's able to do that. But 3.8 will be fine. So I get an extra 10 watts. Or if you go for, so I'll be about 740 watts. If you go with Intel, which will have about 35 watts extra or 40 watts extra, that's gonna go all the way up. Let's say 40 watts extra. That's gonna be all the way to 780 watts. And overclocking that processor is gonna go near the limit of 850 watts. I mean, 850 watts might be enough. Well, actually, it actually will be enough, to be honest. So yes, the minimum you need is 850 watts for this. Now for Crossfire of RX 580s, you need around 650, 750 watts, and you get about, depending on the graphics cards you buy, you can get either from a 1080 performance to a 1080 Ti level of performance from the RX 580s. Now, if you buy the Nitro versions or the Asus Strix versions of it, you can pretty much overclock these very high, the RX 580s, and if you have one in Crossfire, it could equal a GTX 1080 Ti even. That is why I love the Sapphire Nitro. They do so well on the cooling solutions for these cards that it just makes it a great buy for those graphics cards. You're also gonna need two 8-pin power connectors. It's a very power hungry card. You'll be even lucky if it says 240 watts. These cards both will waste at least 350 watts when you overclock these shits. So that's gonna take a lot of power. I'm not even too sure that 850 watts will be enough to sustain this, which is why I would recommend 1000 watts. But 850 watts should be enough with the Ryzen. With a Ryzen processor, should be fine. However, if you're going Intel, I think you're gonna need a bigger power supply than that. That's just my my opinion about these things. Again, buying this system will be very costly because both of these is $1,000, and the power supply is $100. So yes, of course the price is going to be higher, but I showed you real quick what you can do to build a 1080 Ti high-end system for $1,200, and this is for AMD. Personally, I wouldn't go for this because one, the price is too high, and two, a Vega 64 is equivalent to a, well, the Sapphire editions of the Vega 64 is better. It's better than a GTX 1080. The Sapphire versions of these cards, it's definitely better. These cards will outperform a GTX 1080 for sure. They're definitely better. They're the Sapphire Nitro Plus cards on AMD's lineup are the best of the best graphics cards you can buy from any of these series. They're the best. So $500 might be justifiable for a Sapphire card. Personally, I would actually go for 450 for this. Oh, actually, a GTX 1080 the cheapest one costs 430, and this outperforms it by 5, maybe even, I would say even as going 10% more. So you're making an SLI of this, Crossfire of this, it would smash a 1080 Ti or even compete with an RTX 2080. But you're gonna need a lot of watts to sustain this. Personally, it says 240 watts, but I severely doubt that. It's much higher. I've seen YouTube videos where a Vega 64, a single card, when it's overclocked, wastes 400 watts straight. So two of these will waste 800 watts. And yeah, it might waste a little bit more, but I think it's going to waste a lot of wattage. And having an Intel processor on top of that, I don't think 850 watts will be enough. You're going to need a 1000 watt power supply for these things. But it should be enough with a Ryzen 7. You overclock to 3.8 gigahertz and it should be fine. That's my opinion of this. And yeah, so again, it's just simple thing. I'm going to recap. RTX, bad for the price, bad for the performance of the price. Pascal series cards, the 10 series, good for the price. What you should be buying right now. If anything good that came out of the RTX launch is that it made the Pascal series much cheaper, and I'll be happy right now to build a PC. If I don't have a PC right now, I'll be happy to build a PC with Pascal, because the prices right now are beautiful. They are you could actually buy if you are smart enough, you know where to look, you can buy a brand new for 150 or 160 bucks a GTX 1063 GB card. I think that's a great price for that card. And yeah, again, up to you. I would really suggest you guys to buy, if you don't have a PC and if you already have a GTX 1080 Ti and you're thinking to go with RTX, just buy another 1080 Ti, make a SLI, and there you go. And overclock both cards. Shouldn't be caring for the world to buying an RTX card. Not on this generation right now. Maybe on next 2 generations, sure. Although RTX is a very fascinating technology, it's just not worth the price. I would understand if the RTX card, right, for 20% more performance costs about about 20% more, about 750 bucks, right? It costs 750 bucks, which is 150 bucks above a GTX 1080 Ti. For 20% performance, I think that's justifiable. And the RTX 2080, which will be, I don't know, RTX 2080, which should be around Vega price actually, $500. That's justifiable. And the RTX 2070 should be around 400 bucks. That's what I think the price should be for the performance given right now. That's what it should be. I would say with the RTX technology, you could probably bump it up with an extra $50, but that's $800 at most for the RTX 2080 Ti. It doesn't justify the price for the 20% bump of performance that it's giving. The RTX 2080 should be no more than 600, and the RTX 2070 should be 400. That's what the price should be. Now, if it was 50% more performance, which what it should be, then I would see it as $1,200, because then it would actually compete with 2 GTX 1080 Ti's. That's great. If it's able to compete with 2 GTX 1080 Ti's in performance, then yes, $1,200 is completely fine and worth it for this card, and plus you get RTX for future gaming. I don't know how much they're gonna take RTX with this, but this is again an opinion, and I showed some facts about performance. Just remember, all the information that I'm just showing right now are from Adoroy TV. Make sure you subscribe to him. He makes some good content. He made some really good analysis and predictions about the RTX. I just want to share this to people. I'm gonna put his channel underneath my video. And GamerMeld makes some great points on RTX. I mean, RTX is just, for now, it's not even close to being the future of gaming. Not until they can make the performance higher. Because who the fuck in the right mind will want to drop, let's say, from 2K or 4K even, all the way down to 1080p, just to get 60 FPS with some extra lighting and shadowing? Are you kidding me? I'm not doing that. I like playing my first-person shooter games or my strategy games at 144 Hz. I'm content with that. So this is the goal for Nvidia: 60 FPS on 1080p with RTX enabled with a 2080 Ti. That's Nvidia's goal. So for those people that were hoping to get 60 FPS on 2K or even actually on 4K, they were hoping 60 FPS with ray tracing. Fat chance, man. wait for a couple more years. It's just better to buy a 1080 Ti. In fact, if you want that much more performance, buy two of them and make a SLI. And you're good to go for the next even 10 years. You don't need to buy anything else until the RTX series cards actually perform on par with the GTX 1080 Ti SLI. That's when I would say $1,200 is worth the price for those two cards. Again, this has been Crimson Dante Gamer out. Subscribe, like, share my channel. I will make future content about this in the future. This is my opinion about everything here. I mean, everybody has different opinions about this, but what I always said is always think smart, and I think the smart way of going with a high-end computer is with Pascal at the moment. RTX completely scratch it for now. There's no point. The price doesn't really justify the cards, how fast they perform, and with the whole RTX bullshit that barely works on 1080p with 60 FPS. I mean, if you want all the eye candy and all the ooh la la shadows for 1080p with 60 FPS with ray tracing on the RTX 2080 Ti, I mean, alright, still $1,200. I mean, your money, man. You're wasting your money for nothing. In the next 2 generations, you're gonna have a RTX card that's gonna perform at 4K with 60 FPS with ray tracing. Then you wasted $1,200 for nothing. I mean, then I'm just gonna laugh at people. I might sound mean, but I'm just gonna laugh at people, because when I was talking about this, I'm just gonna say, I told you so. And this is just how things are going to be. Nvidia doesn't really care about it. They just want to sell their products. They're gonna put some extra performance, make this is the best future thing for gaming, you should buy it right now, and then give some bullshit that is 10 times faster than a Titan 1080 Ti and try to sell it. And you guys are, you know, getting hooked on this, and you're getting lied to, and you're buying this card and then trying to justify that the price is totally worth it when it's not. It's not worth the price. Alright. I'm out.